I'm sorry?
And I saw that I was on YouTube again, so I
Oh,
don't really know what to do. So
oh, that's the only thing you're concerned
I have to go
about?
to work, so
That's
I'm
the only
gonna let
thing
you
you're
go.
concerned about is you being on YouTube? You're not concerned about police removing me from hotel stays, period? The only reason
I
why
already told you to get me a place to take you. You haven't done that yet, so you don't really care to
it's
take me safe.
impossible for me to
So
get to come if I can't communicate with you. I do have a place to stay, but I'm concerned on why my
okay,
family.
get me a place to take you. But I have to go to work, so I'm not gonna deal with this right now.
You're not gonna.
Okay.
That's the only thing you're concerned about is seeing yourself on YouTube and not your mother repeatedly. He hung up. But this is the one that got hit with a car. The police department covered for it. Law enforcement covers for it. What would you do? Some kind of way they were crying and having meltdowns, but this is several years of becoming immune. These is what your tax dollars is paying for. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use your own family against you. I have badges and guns. Okay. So what you're going to do right now with my badge and gun, you call your mother right now, Deputy Do in Marion County. You tell your mother, no, not call her. You block your mother on Facebook and all social media. I'm Deputy Do. Your mother has called and told me to do a welfare check to come get you, but I'm taking bribes. So what you're going to do is you're going to block your mother on YouTube and don't answer her calls. Even though this is a felony charge, I'm the law, I'm not going to be held accountable. Deputy Do goes over there, instead of doing the welfare check, tells my own children not to speak to me and block me on Facebook and told me he did it. Let's see, let's get answers. Let's call Deputy Do. Once again, my phone wants me to put the number. Oh, okay. It lets me call right here.
Sheriff's office.
Yes, I have questions. Is Deputy Do still there? Mary, you still have a Deputy Do there?
No,
When did he leave?
I have no idea.
Well, it's imperative that I speak with him. He was playing games with me trying to get my son back and reporting interference with child custody for my legal custodial child. That's a stage of felony crime. And I was a legal custodial parent.
I can't help you with that because that is way before my time, so I have no idea.
I'm not quite certain if you know it's way before your time. How would you know?
Ma'am, I'm running traffic. I will put you on hold.
What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? So now that's some kind of sadistic behavior to enlist someone's family members to torment and oppress someone. Now, what kind of mind thought process would someone to have to do that? How psychologically abusive is that to both parties? You call your mom right now if you want to live. You call your sister right now. You interrupt her incriminating us. You help set her up. But here's the problem. My sister was the most afraid that I've ever seen any human being my whole life. I mean, just shaking. I don't even know if the closest movie that I've seen that had any resemblance of how they were behaving is the Blair Witch, when she said, "I'm so afraid," in that advertisement, and I'll put that in the description. That is how she behaved. And I said, is someone doing something to you? No. Her and her Miss Sylvia, which was her children's father's mom. I called it mother-in-law. That's who I was staying with temporarily. And then they later started an argument, hit my charger, and then hit me over it, and then put me out. But they would behave odd, eat food in front of me. For the longest time, I carried the bill for my sister. I would treat people, 7 or 8 people.
Sir?
It's a ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I get that a lot. Are you there? Even in person? Oh, sir. And then put me immediately on hold? Odd. So it's aggravating because these people have knowledge of the law and they have knowledge on distractions and how to get away with crimes. So I'm agitated because even each direction is already bought off and paid for and enforced crimes. So it's making it impossible for you to get solutions. These are government officials, people with badges and guns, degrees against one party. And they have all this torture campaign that it blends in to normal everyday living, gaslighting, mental illness. We're really not doing it so we don't get our felonies. How do you combat that day after day? This is how long this has been. Counterfeit call center? Yeah, right. Fake calls? You mean to tell me you're calling people for years all over the United States and you think that your calls are not authentic? Clear-cut mental illness. Clear-cut mental illness. How is it that I've called all these years and everywhere I call is covering for crimes? Even attorneys that I'm calling trying to hire for a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. All shelters all over the country are full 5 years plus. So they solve their problems with hoes. Let me try to call back.
Child is on the phone. Goodbye.
They're on the phone? Okay, let's see who this is. Hello?
Ma'am, this is Sherry calling from Marion County Sheriff's Office. I'm sorry for my long-winded phone call. As far as how to get a hold of this person, a previous officer, number one, I would not be able to give you that information, but I don't even have that information to give.
Okay, well, I'd like to know what happened with the reports. They don't disappear, do they? Of me trying to get contact with my son? And asking him to do a welfare check, and instead he told my children not to speak with me again? Which is violating my rights as a parent. I was a legal custodial parent, but couldn't get law enforcement to get my child back. I had documentation and paperwork.
Okay.
And state interference with child custody is state jail felony crime that no one has investigated all this time.
Okay, so what I'm going to have you do, or I'm going to get your information, and when the investigator gets in here, I will have him call you, okay?
Okay, the investigator, you're not able to look anything up in your system, and then Deputy Dude gets to disappear with no direction on where he went?
Well,
Did he quit?
That would be information that I can't just put out. And
I'm not quite sure if it's a government official, police department, a police officer that's imperative information to know where he went, and he took my reports and then tried to set me up and cause it a false arrest because I was trying to report his crime in Itasca. Trying to report, he said that he was going to put a case on me, and then I tried to report. You guys kept hanging up each time I called to say he was putting a case on me for having access to my child. So then I called 911 because I didn't want him putting a case on me, and I for my local law enforcement agency, they set me up and took me to jail April 28th, 2018 for trying to report Deputy Dew. And then they arrested me for calling 911 to report the crime, and then lied and said I assaulted them and evaded arrest, and nothing's been done in all this time. I still have that charge.
Did this happen, ma'am? Did this happen within the city or the county?
I'm not quite sure. I'm explaining the misconduct of Deputy Dew that I've explained years.
Okay.
And you're asking me if
that happened years ago. I will take your information.
But it's still a crime. Is it not criminal for what he did, even though it happened years ago?
Ma'am,
he gets to disappear.
No idea what he did.
Do you have an ID?
If
you do, because I'm informing you of it. Did you look in the computer system?
I will have an investigator call you.
Did you look in the computer system to see?
Continue to argue with me.
Are you gaslighting me to have a reasoning behind disconnecting the call and tampering with evidence? I'm not quite sure. You're not disturbed by his misconduct.
I don't know what you are talking about.
Did you look in the computer system? Did you look in the computer system to see what reports were taken?
I don't have access to those records.
Okay, what's your employee ID?
I don't have one. I want you to tell me your name and your phone number so I can get this resolved with someone that knows what avenue to take.
Okay, so
what is your name?
Okay, I'm sorry. What was yours first?
What is your name?
Okay, I don't have rights. My name is Kiana Clark. You're trying to conceal your identity like everyone else?
What is your phone number, Miss Clark? 945.
That is correct, and you're denying me the right to know who I'm speaking with.
How do you spell your first name?
You refuse to tell me who I'm speaking with. Period.
Ma'am, I need to finish the message. How do you pronounce or spell your first name? Chuck Rogers gets in here, I will have him call you.
Where's Chuck Rogers? Okay, so you're refusing to give me any identifying information on who I'm speaking with, period. You will not tell me, even though I repeatedly ask.
This is dispatch.
Okay, so that is a red flag if you're trying to conceal your identity, that you're doing something
I'm
wrong.
not concealing
Just because you're
anything, ma'am.
dispatched
I'm
or
going to let you go, and I'm going to pass on this information.
this is how someone gets trapped. I'm going to use my tones and my position as a government official to violate, but I'm going to conceal my identity because this is criminal. That way we repeatedly can commit these crimes and not have accountability. Prove we're doing it. Okay, ma'am. You've gotten away with it all this time, ma'am. If you're not committing a crime, why won't you give me your name? That's a red flag. No matter what you say. What's your name? She hung up.
Press 2. Good police department. If it's an emergency, please hang up.
It just started over again.
If you
We've
have a
already
question
went
about
through
a
this.
ticket, please call the Itasca Municipal Court at 254-6. Have an Itasca officer dispatched to your location to file a report. Please call the Hill County Sheriff's Dispatch at 254.
Oh, it's forcing me to leave a message. Forcing me to leave a message again. Voicemail. Call it the police department. Voicemail. More issues trying to call numbers.
Thank you for calling.
It's hanging up. I just called after all the games and the Hill County Jail is hanging up. Thank you for calling. Okay, I'm calling back because it said thank you for calling real quick when I called.
You reached the Hill County Jail. For information on how to send an inmate mail, please press 1. For information on items that can be sent, please press 2. For inquiries about an inmate, please press 3.
Let me press 0 because
Transferring to extension 500. 1 moment, please.
Yes, when I was there, my jail stay, I did multiple different grievances, and none of them I didn't have a response on when I was put in restraints for trying to go to court. And then when the warden came and went through my paperwork, had a guard come through my paperwork because I had paperwork that incriminated her, and she threatened to put me in restraints and went through my paperwork while I watched. So I'm not quite sure why the warden would have used that much power and threatened to put me in restraints and took paperwork that I was given that incriminated jail staff for multiple different lies and torturing me while I was in jail on false charges. Is that normal for wardens to threaten restraints and go through someone's paperwork that they've already given the inmate that they were violating?
Hang on, this is not the jail. Hang on.
What, ma'am? Hold on. Hello? It's not the jail? I keep getting this, but I called the jail. Is it a voicemail, ma'am?
Hill County Jail, this is Officer
I'm sorry, who is this?
Ethan, E-A-T-O-N.
Can you repeat that?
My last name is Ethan, E-A-T-O-N.
And who are you?
Correctional officer.
Oh, good. I have some questions about my jail stay.
Okay.
The officers lied on me and said I assaulted them and evaded arrest and gave me 911 abusive call for reporting a crime that the officer was committing, making false statements, and your officer putting cases on people I thought was criminal. Is that true?
I'm not sure. This is the jail.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. When I was in jail on the false charges there, I was violated and put in isolation. And there were issues with the TV that I reported, how they bypassed all the Christian stations, how I was denied rec, and how I was threatened by multiple different inmates. But the inmates appeared to be getting rewarded. They put me in isolation after getting threatened. And the people that threatened me got extra trays and extra library privileges that I witnessed and breaks on charges that they had. So, but here's the thing, with all these grievances, there was no response to being all the psychological abuse. So I noticed that days that I felt better, that this guard, I think her name was Mary, I can't remember, would come in and torment me. So it forced me to hide up under the covers because she would lie and say I was harassing inmates and did different things for psychological abuse. And then they hid my bond. So can you tell me what happened with all those grievances? And then someone reported their criminal activity, and a sheriff came to investigate jail staff there, and all these conspirators were crying. And I don't know what was to become. The sheriff told them to give me my bond, but they never did. So here's the thing: when I asked to why I wasn't going to court, they put me in restraints for trying to go to court. And then they played mind games when I asked about my court dates. They would give everybody else information in isolation on their court dates and deprive me of it.
So this is the first time I've heard about this situation?
No, because I've done grievances and I've called multiple different times to get nowhere. And I've left messages for the new warden. I think they said that the warden changed. Who's the warden now?
So who was the warden when you...
I'm not able to ask who the warden is now.
You can.
Who?
Currently, we do not have a jail captain currently. There's 2 lieutenants in place of the jail captain right now.
Who was a captain like 5 years ago?
I'm not sure. I didn't work here 5 years ago. So let me go ahead and transfer over to my supervisor.
Your supervisor, so I have to repeat myself again? This is a repeated pattern of getting nowhere. I don't want to be transferred over to your supervisor. Do you have information? Can you see what happened on my grievances and why none of them were answered? Because depriving someone of recreation is a crime, but jails repeatedly keep doing it with no accountability. All jail stays that I have, if they're not scheming to deprive me of recreation, they put me in isolation so they can get away with abuse. This is a repeated pattern of me exposing abuse and people talking while I'm talking and then blaming me for it. How do I figure out what happened when the sheriff came and investigated jail staff for their abuse and they were terrified and crying? How did that disappear? Because that's pretty extreme if someone has to come and investigate jail staff for abuse.
I'm not saying that it disappeared. I'm just saying I don't have access to that information. I could transfer you over.
In hindering a bond criminal for government officials to hide someone's bond? I had a PR bond and they wouldn't give it to me. They said they hid it in the safe. And then when the jail staff got incriminated and the sheriff came, then some kind of way the captain had an emergency and was gone for an extended amount of time till this blew over.
Do you remember the date of this situation?
My false arrest went from April 28, 2018. And then I was released September 3rd, 2018. And then there was games played with my attorney sabotaging my ability to go to court. The attorney would say that they met and didn't need me at court. There were all kind of schemes. Even my attorney was involved in it. My attorney would have me come out the cell to meet with them, play mind games, and then I never come walk by me. And then I get taken back to the cell, and she said that she didn't have time. She had to speak with someone else.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm already in jail on false charges. They've taken me out my cell to come see you. You're walking up and down the aisles. Then they take me back to my cell without seeing you. So then I tried, since my attorney was covering for crimes, so then I tried to call an attorney. But the phone kept hanging up and it was weird. So I couldn't get an attorney on my own. So I'm not quite sure while I was in jail using the jail phone while I was behaving odd and keeping me from hiring an attorney since my court-appointed attorney was behaving odd.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's nothing that you can do to look in the system to see where all these grievances went and why the warden, the captain at the time, had to come in my cell and threaten to put me in restraints and take paperwork out my cell?
Yeah,
that's pretty weird for the warden to go through someone's paperwork if they're not committing crimes. Have you ever seen a warden come in someone's cell and go through their paperwork, personal paperwork?
Yes, ma'am. I don't have access.
I'm just asking, what's your position?
Transfer over my supervisor that might have access.
What's your name? You do sound familiar. What's your name?
I'm Officer Ethan. I did not work here in 2018.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a lot of things I try to take inventory. I could be mistaken.
Yeah.
And your badge number?
It's 1124.
Okay, so asking you if it's normal for a captain to threaten to put someone in restraints and go through their paperwork, you are not able to comment on if that's normal.
That's correct.
And you're not compromised. This is this conversation is not biased.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so if this conversation is not biased, and what's your position?
Just a correctional officer.
Okay, correctional officer. What is it? Hiding, keeping someone from recreation? Is that okay, or is that a crime?
I'm not sure if it's a crime, but we're not allowed to keep y'all from having recreation.
Okay, one moment, please, while you're on the phone. You're a correctional officer. I think that you should be aware of misconduct. Let's see if it's a crime. 1 second. Let me look it up real quick. Oh, it went off again. It was working. Then it stopped working again.
Good morning, Hill County Jail. This is Sergeant Tadry.
I was just transferred blindly to someone else to start over this conversation again. This is a pattern that has followed me years.
What can I help you with, ma'am? Sorry, you were talking to the person who's in Central, so.
Then why did he? So what are we going to get accomplished with you? What's your name?
Sergeant Tadry?
Okay, Sergeant Patrick is denying someone of recreation a crime in Texas?
Sorry, is what? A crime in Texas?
Depriving someone of recreation a crime in Texas.
When, like in jail, you mean?
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure.
Are you able to Google it and check? Because my device is glitching and won't let me do it.
Were you deprived recreation?
Can you Google it? I want clarity on if that's a crime.
I'm not Googling stuff because that's not accurate information. That's Google.
Okay, well, can you look up the codes? If you're a law enforcement officer, how would you know if you're committing a crime if you don't refuse to?
Ma'am, I work in the jail.
Okay, so what's your position again?
I'm a sergeant.
Okay, do you have a badge number?
Yeah, 1177.
Okay, and your name?
Patry.
Okay, and you work in a jail and you don't know if depriving someone of recreation is criminal? Don't you think that's imperative?
You get offered recreation 3 times a week.
Okay, but if you deny someone that privilege and corruption, what are the consequences for that?
I'm not 100% sure, ma'am, because I wasn't here when you were here.
I just thought that it would be imperative to know if you're committing crimes, but all the people around me seem to don't know if things are criminal and they're law enforcement. So I think that you are using that, they're pretending to have ignorance on laws as an alibi to get away with crimes. But even if you don't, even if it says that if you're not aware with the penal code or whatever you want to call it, even if you're not aware that it's criminal to deprive someone of rec, you are still held accountable. Even the people that conspire with it and cover up for it. But my phone won't let me find it. So then when I started looking up laws, they wanted me to be ignorant and started depriving me of legal law library, every jail stay, and regular library.
Were you here before?
We're deflecting on if I was there and was deprived of recreation as well as other all jail stays. And the avenue to do that, they put me in isolation in Malice. I was threatened by inmates that got rewarded and put in isolation after I got threatened. I witnessed these inmates getting extra trays and privileges, as well as a multiple different other environments. Then some of them even got breaks on their cases.
What's your name so I can look you up in the system?
It's Kiana. So sheriff came and investigated. I'm sorry, I started talking and you started talking with me.
Sorry, what was your birthday?
None of the grievances I did were answered. And then the warden, the captain at that time, came in my cell and forced a shakedown to go through my paperwork and had guards reading my paperwork and taking it. When staff got incriminated, making false statements in paperwork that they would give me. So when they got caught in their crime, they didn't want me to have a paperwork. And I said I wanted to keep my paperwork. No, I was not giving it to them. They threatened to put me in restraints and then went through my paperwork and took it. And then when the sheriff came, people were crying and panicking to investigate their criminal activity and abuse that has not been addressed. And schemes to deprive me of going to court on false charges repeatedly over and over, which I thought were federal charges that people aren't getting have not got any accountability for. Having inmates terrorize me as well as guards.
Yeah, so if I would suggest, like, do you have a
You just got my information, ma'am? Didn't you just get my information?
I wasn't here at that time.
I'm not being heard. Did you just get my information?
I have your information here, yes, ma'am.
Did you just get it to look in the system?
Yeah.
What happened?
I'm just reviewing this. I'm just saying I wasn't here.
Yes, but I'm just wondering to know, we're just kind of deflecting and the runaround. I'd just like to know what you see in the system. And they also withholding someone's bond. It's also criminal too. I thought withholding a person's bond, these are like federal charges for government officials. That's criminal to withhold someone's bond, and there's evidence because they had to address to this sheriff why they were withholding my bond. And then they never gave me my bond. I had a PR bond that they would not give me. and forced me to stay in jail on these false charges that forced me to lose everything that I had, kids, all the furniture that I've had years, decades, the place that I stayed, a 4-bedroom
I
house.
understand your frustration. I'm just saying, like,
We're just not really getting clarity for all of these crimes that are repeatedly unaddressed.
But
You
that's
just
something
got
you
my
have to talk to with
information.
your
I just
attorney
get the
about.
runaround all the time. I'm not quite sure why you got my name and information, and we still have not addressed anything while
So
you
I
got
knew who
it.
I was
And this is a
speaking
repeated
with, but I
pattern
didn't
for
know what
multiple
you were
different
speaking
calls.
about. So I'm just saying that it might be best for you to contact your
I'm not
attorney
quite
about something, 'cause
sure why these
I don't know
people,
why
location to
anything about your
location plays
charges.
games. All this
Pardon me?
psychological abuse going over one thing, then you getting transferred in malice to another party to repeat it, and then scam that I'm looking up your information in the computer, but I'm already paid to make sure that you have the runaround and never get anything accomplished. We
No,
still
I'm
have
just
not
saying I
addressed.
can't
We
discuss
still
your
have not
charges with you
addressed why
because
you got
that's
my
legal. I can't do
information
that.
and an army full of others, and you refuse to tell me what came up. How do you combat everyone that you're talking to doing this year after year? Well, how do I
Tell me I
combat
can't
that you
discuss
just got
your
my
charges with
information
you
and
because
won't tell
I
me
can't
what you
discuss
see?
legal matters.
I'm sorry?
I'm just saying I can't discuss your charges and why you were held here and everything else because those are legal matters.
I'm not quite sure what the good relevancy of you getting my information to deprive all the information from me. What's the relevancy of that?
So I can see who I was speaking with.
Okay, so now that you see, you can't tell me anything, so you're not incriminating anyone, and people are supposed to believe.
I can't discuss your charges with you, and like I said, I wasn't.
I'm not. I'm asking what happened with the grievances, and what happened when the sheriff came to investigate Joe's staff for their torture campaign. I endured there.
Like I said, I'm not 100% sure, ma'am, because I wasn't here.
How do you get? I mean, no one's sure. How do I get some accountability for people that rack up charges? Hindering a bond is criminal. Depriving someone of rec is a crime too, and you're not being honest about it, nor my phone. It says not only are the parties that withheld the rec accountable, but anyone that was aware that it was going on. And I informed multiple parties at multiple different jail stays that rec was being withheld. Some occasions, even showers, library, regular library. They played games with my food, all jail stays. I reported that they would burn my food in malice when they put me in isolation. And then one time they gave me some food that I was started throwing up because it was so bad and old. And when I looked out the jail cell, one of the trustees was crying. But that trustee eventually got a break in her case. If someone to review the cameras, they would see all of everything that I'm reporting is true. Why was I gagging on this food that appeared to be old?
I wasn't here at that time.
But I can't report it, and you have information in your system that you're refusing to give me. Why was a trustee crying when they served me my food? They were serving food. And then I'm glad she got the break on her charges. Someone had compassion because these government officials wanted to use their power to violate. Even this inmate had more integrity than these government officials and was crying when she was witnessing what they were doing. This jail cell was amazing, like a movie. People could not believe what they were witnessing these jail staff doing openly in the public. Inmates were amazed, going crazy. They could not believe what they were seeing along with me. They're like, is this real? Crime after crime, jail staff openly. So I like reading motivational books and things that are healthy for your spirit. So this same guard that would come to me and start arguments started going through the books and taking books that I liked when they did allow me to go to library card. And then there was all kind of weird things that happened in books that I would like to read. That's not realistic. It would be like messages in it that I can't talk about. So here's just one. I know it's not realistic, but I want people to know what I go through. So one of the book styles that I like, I had made this gel style tampon. I have unusually heavy cycles. So I made a gel style tampon. In the books, it said bloody, disgusting tampon. One of the books that I would like to read, motivational Christian books. It was terrifying. I had just made a gel style tampon. And then in the books, it has bloody, nasty tampon. But some kind of way that the guard was guarding books. After that incident, I've been deprived of books in multiple different locations, even hospitals.
Yeah, ma'am. Unfortunately, like, I can't look back on anything that happened then. Like,
I'm just hoping the
stuff
feds
like
can,
that.
ma'am. At this point, I'm just trying to incriminate people because I think these experiences are extreme for nothing to repeatedly be done. I don't know when this will upload. I'd like you to check out my YouTube channel because you're going on it. And I hope that there's accountability for these extreme events. Hospital staff and jail staff and all these army full of people gaslighting one human being, violating them, torturing them because they chose to rack up felonies and take bribes. Why do I have to be accountable for that? Why aren't you just take your charges like other people and instead of listing an army full of people to go down for you so you don't have accountability? I think it's sick. Maybe this is how the government deals with their problems and I'm just naive and ignorant and don't know how it works. But I just think that it's toxic to enlist restaurants, hotels, all these groups, armies, family members into helping these people not get away with their extreme criminal activity. But so once again, another fruitless call. At this point, I'm aware that years of calling around to get in nowhere, even before I knew I was targeted. This is not for you or not for me because it has not done anything calling around all these years. I'm just trying to see how many patterns will equal an arrest. Okay, ma'am. So are you having someone call me with the answers? Is it hidden? When I was about to start incriminating all these people, COVID happened and it held me up. I had looked on my phone, all these ways to incriminate all these government officials that chose to rack up charges, was interrupted by COVID. Then the federal building was taking my case seriously. Then everything got shut down with COVID. Then after COVID, they hit the jackpot and then everything was bought off and controlled and nothing was done.
I'm sorry I couldn't be a better help to you, but
I'm just curious, I know COVID got really big. So, at first I absolutely thought COVID was created by the government and to not get accountability for their crimes. But it became pretty huge. So I figured that it was just a coincidence, but they hit the jackpot. I'm just saying, if you repeatedly see someone getting violated of their rights, I don't understand how you not feel that your future rights could be violated as well. If you see law enforcement not being placed under control and violating someone's rights to an extreme, how could one party not feel that endangers your future rights? But for all these years, it does not appear that I'm getting heard because I am still currently in it right now. Okay, ma'am. So are you going to have someone call me back with answers? I mean, I've been calling an extended amount of time and my calls aren't returned. How do we get accountability for these people that chose to rack up charges? I thought for my attorney hindering my case and playing mind games and having me come out my cell to ignore me, having court appearances without me and disregarding me. How can you have court without me? Then they because they didn't want any witnesses that to exclude to have private sessions when I did have some kind of court appearances excluded from everyone else. They wanted it private. So they held this special court service. A bailiff said he's worked there 20 years and had never seen anything like what I had experienced from my session. He didn't know what was going on. Now they enlist all parties in my environment to blatantly lie and cover for their crimes. 20 years, but some kind of way I have an experience that he has not seen in 20 years. You there? She hung up. You there? My phone is glitching. It's not letting me see. I don't see her on here. Yeah, she hung up. Hill County Jail, 25 minutes ago. My calls are not, they promise my calls aren't loose. They promise I'm mentally ill. But reporting year after year, they're hanging up in your face covering for crimes. Attorneys are doing it. But they promise, because that would be federal charges. We promise you're mentally ill. Please. We are not spoofing your calls. That's your mind. The sheriff coming, you're mentally ill. People crying, no, it's your mind. We're not deliberately ruining your food on camera footage at restaurants everywhere I go. It's your mind. Please. Please, please. We are not going to jail. It's your mind. You're mentally ill. Get mental health treatment. Go get mental health treatment. Get out. Discharge. Police supervising it. Nothing.